Turns out, the diabetes paradox in Alzheimer's disease. Your brain might be better at fighting Alzheimer's if you have diabetes. That sentence should not be true. That sentence contradicts everything we thought we knew. And yet, a new study from South Korea found exactly that. In people with mild cognitive impairment and type 2 diabetes, a certain inflammation marker actually slowed cognitive decline instead of accelerating it. So the question becomes this: if the same immune signal can help or harm depending on what's already broken in your body, what else are we getting backwards about how disease actually works? For decades, researchers have been hunting the culprits in Alzheimer's disease. Find the bad guy, eliminate it, stop the disease. The problem is that the human body doesn't work like a choose-your-own-adventure game. Every system talks to every other system. Your metabolism doesn't stay in its lane. Your immune system doesn't ignore what your pancreas is doing. And inflammation, that word we've learned to fear, isn't always the villain. Sometimes it's the immune system's way of trying to save you, but we haven't known when it's which. Until now, science has mostly studied Alzheimer's as if metabolic health didn't matter. This study asks a radical question: what if it changes everything? A researcher named E.W. Kim at Seoyong University in South Korea wanted to find out. Using data from the Alzheimer's Disease Neuroimaging Initiative, one of the largest longitudinal brain studies ever conducted, Kim examined 373 people with mild cognitive impairment. The work was published online in June 2026 in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease. It's recent, it's rigorous, and it completely upends how we should think about one specific immune molecule. Here's what they actually did. They took 373 people who had already started forgetting things, not full dementia but measurable cognitive decline. Among these people, some had type 2 diabetes. Some didn't. Researchers measured inflammation markers in their blood, specifically something called interleukin 8 or IL-8. Then they followed these people over time. They scanned their brains, they tracked their cognitive function, they watched for amyloid accumulation, those sticky protein plaques that are the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. Think of it like this. They were watching how one immune signal behaved in two different metabolic environments, like studying how a medicine works differently in bodies running different operating systems. The key finding emerged in the moderation analysis. Basically, the team asked, does the effect of IL-8 change depending on whether someone has diabetes? It did, dramatically. In the diabetes group, here's what happened. People with higher baseline IL-8 levels showed significantly slower cognitive decline over time. We're talking about the Clinical Dementia Rating Scale, a standardized measure clinicians use. The effect was statistically significant, p equals 0.005, which means this wasn't random noise. It was real. But here's where it gets wild. In that same diabetes group, higher IL-8 correlated with lower amyloid burden in the hippocampus, the brain region that's critical for memory. And the parahippocampal cortex actually showed less atrophy in people with higher IL-8. Translation: their brains were physically shrinking less. Meanwhile, in people without diabetes, IL-8 showed no meaningful association with any of these outcomes. None. No cognitive protection, no amyloid benefit, no structural preservation. Same molecule, same immune signal, completely different results depending on metabolic context. What does this mean for actual human beings? It means that the same inflammatory response your doctor might warn you about could actually be protecting your brain, but only if your metabolism is already disrupted by diabetes. It's like your immune system is recalibrating its strategy based on the threat environment. In a metabolically stressed body, it seems to be saying, okay, we're already dealing with chronic inflammation from diabetes. Let's use this IL-8 response to slow down the pathological processes we see in Alzheimer's. That's adaptive. That's your body fighting back. But here's the honest part. This study has real limitations. It's observational, not experimental. We can't say IL-8 causes better outcomes. We can only say they move together. The sample size, while decent, isn't enormous, and the study didn't measure other inflammatory markers that might be confounding the results. We don't know if this effect persists long-term or if it eventually breaks down. We don't know if IL-8 is actually doing the protective work or if it's just a marker of something else that's protective. These gaps matter. They're the difference between interesting finding and clinical breakthrough. But what makes this work intellectually important is that it challenges a foundational assumption in neuroscience. For years, we've studied Alzheimer's in isolation, as if a brain getting sick lives in a vacuum, separate from metabolic state and systemic inflammation. This study suggests that's not just incomplete, it might be backwards. The metabolic context isn't a confounding variable to control for. It's a fundamental variable that changes what disease actually means in that body. It changes the rules. This opens a stunning question. If diabetes changes how IL-8 works in the brain, what else changes? Do other immune signals flip their meaning based on metabolic state? Is every inflammatory marker we're measuring context-dependent? Are we missing protective mechanisms across dozens of diseases simply because we haven't looked at how the full organism's state changes what each signal does? The real takeaway here is this. Your immune system might be smarter than we thought, adapting its response based on what's already failing in your body. So the next time you hear that inflammation is bad, remember that sometimes your body's way of fighting back looks exactly like the thing you're trying to stop. Turns out, scientists have been busy, and they're not done yet.